the one thing that I offer anyone that like it comes to me for advice about starting a YouTube or just starting a brand in general is like, you just have to show up. Like you just have to keep on doing it. So many people start, stop, start again, stop. Like, you know, I just showed up to do it. And essentially that's where the success came from, was just being there. And like, you know, the more you're there, the more people will trust you, and sticking to my practice. So I kept getting better, and people see that, and then people want to hang around and they want to learn and, you know, jam.
Welcome to the Powerful One podcast, episode 28 with Josh Hash. Josh Hash is the creator and CEO of StrengthSide. StrengthSide seeks to improve freedom in the mind and body, and with over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, StrengthSide helps thousands of people open and connect to their bodies through movement. Josh lives a life of travel, movement, and seeks fulfillment through experience rather than material things. Josh is somebody who I've been inspired by his videos for a long time. Super excited to get him on the podcast. So in this episode, we talk about everything from Josh's YouTube channel and his YouTube success. We talk a lot about meditation, journaling. We talk about some of Josh's morning routines and how important that is in his life. He also talks about experiences being one of the driving values in his life rather than material items and material possessions. He talks about how much he loves travel and some of his experiences doing that. Josh also details his movement journey and how he actually started with an injury, realized he had all these ailments and all these underlying tightnesses and issues with his body, and then began his movement journey to not being stiff, to being functional again, to being able to move freely. And so it's such an amazing episode. Very, very, very excited to share this with you guys. Here it is, episode 28 with Josh Hash. Here with Josh Hash from StrengthSide. What is up, my man?
Hey, what's going on, dude? Thanks for having me on today. I'm super excited.
Dude, I am super excited, man. I've been a big fan of yours. I think I discovered you probably like a year ago, because I think it was in the summer of last year, man. And I would just remember like always just refreshing, like trying to see when your videos are uploaded, man, and just been inspired by your content as well as your journey. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate you making the time.
Dude, I appreciate that. And when you reached out, I recognize like your name from, you know, like just maybe commenting on something or whatever. And whenever it's someone that's like engaged with what I'm doing, I'm just like, yeah, dude, let's do this. Let's chat. So super grateful, man.
That means a lot. So yeah, bro, you're out in Colorado right now. We were just talking off camera, but it's your first time there. So yeah, man. So what all are you getting into out there?
Well, yeah, it's like I've been spending a good amount of time camping actually, and you know, being out in nature and kind of rediscovering that part of myself that is really self-reliant and doesn't need a lot to be happy and to get by. And like I love that I've developed my movement practice to where I can be out in the wild, I can be out, you know, off grid, and I can still get training sessions in, I can still move my body, and I can still feel really good, you know. And that's been a lot of my journey, is like, how can I get this freedom in my body and my mind to where I don't need a lot.
Yeah, man. I remember specifically one of the videos you had posted kind of talking about that same thing. Like you realized that some of your values didn't come from like the material stuff, and that you could really, that you noticed that you were like happier and stuff when you didn't have a lot. And so I don't know, I guess if you don't mind, just kind of talk about like that mindset and how that came to be, where you're like almost like that. Would you call yourself a minimalist, or how would you kind of explain that aspect of your values to people?
Yeah, you know, it all started when I took a trip out of the country, and I had never left the country before, and I was 26, and I took a trip to Costa Rica, and I just fell in love. Like I fell in love with everything, with the culture there, with the people there, but also just the process of traveling, just like going somewhere and being excited about going to a new destination. And like, some of my favorite parts of traveling is being on the plane, being on the bus, you know, like just having this experience. And I started to realize that like these experiences are what I want in my life. And up until that point, like the way I was living was like everybody. Like it's like, oh, I want to get this new car, and then I want to like upgrade the place that I'm living, and I want new things, and then I started to detach from those things because I was like, those things at the end of the day don't really make me happy. What makes me happy is going new places, meeting new people, having experiences, and ultimately like being in my body and moving my body. So yeah, I mean, it's not like all of a sudden this happened. I just started gradually valuing experience over things. Now, all I have is what fits in my truck right now, like to my
Damn.
name. And that feels good,
Yeah.
and I'm still like, oh, it's too much. And like, I was just thinking this weekend, there's like, I could get a little lighter.
Yeah. No, that's such a crazy thing, man. I definitely admire that a lot. So was that something that, I know another thing that you're huge on is obviously movement, just being able to move the body and stuff. So if you don't mind just like talking a little bit about like that shift as well. Cause I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you originally have like some injuries, some maybe like tightness in your muscles and stuff like that? And you just, and that kind of, I guess, is what came to the strength side journey, and just kind of like talk about that, like kind of the movement aspect of your journey in your life and how important that's been for you.
Absolutely. Well, this portion, like before I took this trip to Costa Rica,
Mhm.
I was very stiff and I was very rigid in my body. And now when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, of course, that was representative where I was in my mind as well. Like I thought I knew everything, and I thought I was like this great trainer who could teach like all the wisdoms. But I needed to be humbled, and that came in the form of an injury. And I tore my meniscus, and it took me out of being able to train in the way that I was training at the time. I was like lifting heavy. I was really into deadlifting and squatting heavy. And then I have this injury that's like, oh, well, shit, like
Yeah.
this takes away my identity of who I think that I am. So I had to like rediscover um my relationship to movement. And this just took me on a path of like, okay, what can I do with my body? Well, I can do gymnastics style upper body training since I can't use my lower body.
Right.
Started doing that, and I was like, whoa, wow, my body feels good. I'm so weak at this stuff. Like I should be able to do these things. And from there, it just unfolded more and more to like discovering, oh, wow, I am so stiff. I want to unlock more range of motion. I want to be able to move more free. I was inspired by a lot of people that I saw doing these types of things, moving elegantly,
Right.
flowing. And yeah, from there, and it was like such a parallel path with the mind, because then I was just like, oh, like I don't know anything and I want to learn and I want to be a white belt all the time.
Yeah, yeah, I like that mentality, that kind of white belt mentality. So that's so interesting you say like about the identity, because like you had, and I always find it interesting when like something really bad happens to people and it's able to like kind of manifest into something really positive. And for you, it seems like that was everything, because now you're super successful with your movement coaching, everything of that nature. And so like just about the mindset of like that change, you know, is so interesting. And I love that kind of started then your journey, something that almost like took away your identity at you thought at the time, but really it was just making you realize all these things that you needed, all these whether it was injuries that you needed to fix and stuff like that. So that's fascinating, man. So then from there, was that just the start of when did strength side kind of play into that?
Yeah. Strength side was, I was doing strength side like right it all happened in the middle. Like
Oh
I
wow.
started strength side, and uh I was emulating people that I wanted to be. I was trying to be like Kelly Starrett, like Elliot Hulse, like I wanted to be this great teacher. And when when this thing happened to where I was very humbled and started this new movement practice, I essentially started to change my identity to be more of, hey, I'm walking this path. This is what I'm finding is helping me. This is my journey. I'm sharing it. Can it help you in any way? I
Yeah.
hope so. And people started to resonate with it, and that took a big identity shift as well, to go from like this dude that just wanted to give all the wisdom
Right.
to like, hey, like I'm learning too right now.
Yeah, man. So like what was your first experience like with that? And I guess like kind of putting that out there and putting that information out there. And it's almost like, when you see how I guess a lot of people, it's like you said, they're kind of the one giving the wisdom to everybody, but you were kind of on that same path with everybody, just kind of learning about yourself, your body. So, talk about, if you don't mind, just the initial, like when you started the following, the YouTube and stuff like that, and just, and kind of to where it is now, and just everything in between, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, it's been about 6 years of Strength Side on YouTube, and I've just, I've been learning as I go. And the one thing that I offer anyone that like it comes to me for advice about starting a YouTube or just starting a brand in general is like, you just have to show up. Like you just have to keep on doing it. So many people stop, start again, stop. Like, you just have to. I'm actually rereading a Stephen Pressfield book called Do the Work, and I was just reading a passage this morning that he was just like, he was just essentially just explaining that when you're a professional, when you switch on that professional hat, that all you have to do is just show up for your day's work. And like the amateur, they think too big picture, they think down the line, but the professional knows it's just this that's in front of me right now. And like when I think back to my journey, it was just every week it was like, all right, what's going to be the video this week? Like, let's do it, let's jam it out. Sometimes I'm super motivated, sometimes I really don't want to do this shit, but I just showed up to do it. And essentially that's where the success came from, was just being there. And like, the more you're there, the more people will trust you, and sticking to my practice. So I kept getting better, and people see that, and then people want to hang around and they want to learn and, jam.
Yeah, man, I think that's that's so interesting. But I think that's such an underrated thing to, just like the consistency, man, just showing up and doing it. And I really like, going off that, I really like, one of the things I really like about your channel is that you're very like open, honest with people. Like sometimes it'd be like, yeah, guys, I really wasn't motivated to shoot videos this week or whatever it is. And like you said, you kind of, it's almost like the movement or maybe something, whatever that video is kind of brings you in, but you stay for the person. And it's cool. Like, I feel like I've known you for like a year and a half now, because you build that kind of relationship and that kind of audience. And I do think that's a really cool thing, but I love that advice, man. Just showing up. I love that.
Thanks, dude. Yeah. And I mean, you just touched on another point right there, is just trying to be like really, really authentic, and people can see through like the fakeness so
100%,
easily.
100%.
Yeah. And like, and I understand that to get started, you have to be kind of fake. Like in the beginning, it's really hard to just be your natural self and be really authentic. And that's why I think in the beginning stages, it's good to emulate someone,
For
who do
sure.
you look up to? Who are you inspired by? Try to be them. But then there comes a point where you just like really step into your own, and you wear like pink bucket hats and stuff, um, but yeah, it's like, and then the more authentic that you can be, like the more people will just want to stay with you and want to keep like vibing with your stuff.
Dude, that's such a good point. And it's funny because you are essentially what got me into starting my YouTube channel. The first video I ever watched of you was a full day of eating, because I think at the time I was huge into vlogs and I was huge into full day of eating. So I watched your full day of eating.
Yeah, okay.
You made this crazy PB&J, and I think I went and made one like 5 minutes later. But what was funny about that is I remember, and then I ended up like just recording myself, and it was very uncomfortable. But I was just like trying the stuff that you were doing, and then I didn't put them out there at first. I was kind of just doing it, get comfortable with it, and almost like emulating you to a sense. And now it's like I finally feel comfortable in talking in front of the camera. It's as if I'm like talking to a friend. But I attest you to my YouTube channel, and even like the comfortability of opening up from the podcast and stuff, man. So that's a testament to you, and I think that's like such a core thing of a a following that something you have, which is, it's powerful, man.
Dude, that's so awesome, man. That really makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy that like that inspired you to get that YouTube stuff going. And that's what I hope, is that everybody sees that, like, I'm such, like, there's nothing special about me. Like, I'm not gifted athletically. I've went through a lot of struggles, and I'm not, like, you could find so many more people on YouTube that are more talented than me. But what I know that makes people like gravitate towards me is a vulnerability. Like, I'll tell you how I'm feeling. I'll tell you like the real shit.
Yeah.
And people dig that, you know, and it's also kind of in a way, it's a bit of a trick, you know, not to be manipulative, but if you share something vulnerable, then people will feel more comfortable with you, and they'll want to, like, keep on hanging out with you via your content, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So like going off that, like what's the coolest part for you being able to see you have this huge following? I think it's something like 320 something thousand followers on YouTube, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something on that nature. So what's like the coolest part about having just like this? It's not really so much a following. I think it's just like a big community. So what's like the coolest part for you just having this community of YouTube and now on Instagram?
That's a great question. The coolest part more recently has been like how our community has shaped into people really trying to discover more freedom, be it in their bodies and, you know, their mind, spirit. And what's interesting is, like, in the beginning of the strength side journey on YouTube was, you know, I'll be honest, like, the type of audience that I had wasn't really what I wanted. Like, people just wanted me to show, how do you fix this problem? You know, how do you strengthen this muscle, type of thing. And
Sure.
I was like, that wasn't what I wanted to be. I ultimately, like, wanted to be someone who was more so inspiring you to move more and to move better. And what I see is, like, in that transformation of myself opening up, stepping into this role as a leader, sharing more about my journey, the community has completely changed to where people like you, right? People that are like doing dope stuff
Right.
are also like tuning into strength side. And that, like, I couldn't ask for more, you know. That makes me feel so grateful. And it also makes me inspired to share more of, like, the personal side of things, or just the vulnerable stuff, but then also to highlight other people, share people
Yeah.
that I know that are doing really cool stuff too.
Well, yeah, man, I think that's a really cool thing. And I think like that kind of goes along. Like I did find you from searching something else. Like I wanted an answer to a question, whether it was like, how many calories should I be eating a day? And I found you, but I stayed for the person, and that kind of builds that community. So I think that's cool. It's like, I actually remember also like for tightness in shoulders and for all that stuff, like I would come back for the content, but then I would stay for, you know, getting to know you. And I remember that was one thing that I had always kind of wanted you to do, was to kind of have like the more personal stuff. And so you've since added, like, whether it's the podcast stuff. I was so pumped when you started doing those video podcasts on YouTube, stuff like that. So what's like something you're really excited
Yeah.
about with like the channel, or something that kind of you're moving toward just with the channel, to kind of wrap up with that?
Yeah. So the podcast was, actually, I'm gonna jam on two things, because
For sure.
I really like the, yeah, we'll get to the what's coming for strength side, but first, I like how you said, like, you came to, like, oh, how do I open my chest? And then, you know, you start to dig more and more, and then you're like, oh, like, what's up with this guy? like
Yeah. Yeah.
like what's his story? And I see that so often, you know, from doing this for a long time, is that people come with like some sort of problem, like they have a tight hip, but then they, you know, they start to understand that, like, oh, my tight hip is a product of my lifestyle, you know. And then you start to not only like learn the stretches and the strengthening stuff and movements that are going to help you be better, but also we start to like see the snowball effect of people start getting into, oh, like, what about meditation, you know, like, what about journaling, like, what about these lifestyle changes I can make that that just like encourage more growth and transformation to be more comfortable in my
Yeah.
body. Because I think a lot of the time, like, you have a tight shoulder, you have a tight hip, and yes, there are some mechanical issues there, but what is, like, there's some emotional stuff going on that makes you tense that area somehow. And the more we can, like, adopt this lifestyle that's getting away from like consumerism and the screens and technology, and start like living a more whole lifestyle how we're supposed to, then it's like, oh wow, now that stretch that I've been doing for 2 years is starting to work. Now my shoulder is starting to loosen up, right? And I think this is like really, really important. And it's why I feel really inspired to keep going with the stuff that I'm sharing,
Well,
essentially.
yeah, actually, I do want to touch back on that before we go further, because I think that's something that, because like, since, watching the channel and stuff, and like the journaling, meditation, like just being present, whether it's like spirituality, there was so much other stuff. So for you, as somebody who was kind of like building this community and kind of, learning with people, when did that kind of click for you, this whole mindset aspect of the movement and of the body? Like, was that always something that when you started Strength Side that was very apparent, or is that something that kind of was birthed through the journey?
I always had it on my radar, but I was more so like just sitting on the sideline, like watching it, and I dabble in some meditation, and I thought like I was, oh yeah, like I'm doing like these growth things, these transformation things. I'm into self development, but and I think that's the way everyone starts. But it wasn't until the last year, 2 years, that I really like started going heavily into these practices and valuing them just as much as my physical practice. And I started like actually sitting down to meditate every single morning, like no, like that's just what's happening today, and getting the journal out even when I don't feel like it, and not turning on the TV, but doing these practices that will make me feel better. And yeah, I've learned so much from it in the last like 2 years. So to answer your question, yeah, it's definitely just been something that's been unfolding. And um, like any journey, like it picks up steam as it goes. But you gotta, like, you can't bite everything off at once, right? Like what I like to tell people is pick what interests you. Pick one thing. Maybe it's like cold exposure. You want to do some cold showers. Maybe you want to meditate, whatever. Just pick one thing and do it every day for a month, and see how it goes and learn from that. And then maybe that becomes a part of your lifestyle and your habits. And then you can choose something else. Like, oh, I want to start journaling now, and like I said, it's a snowball effect to one thing makes you feel better. You want to do something else. You want to do something else. It's the same with movement. Physicality is the same with like emotional state as well.
Yeah, I love that, man. So like for you, what are those things? You mentioned meditation, you mentioned journaling. What are some of the things that like makes you who you are, and some of the things that you do practice every day that really help with, like, whether it's spirituality, mindset, and then overall just well-being and health? Like what are some more of those things for you?
Mm. Yeah, journaling has been like so crucial for me. And I recommend it to everyone because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like this may sound kind of weird, but you really get to know yourself better, and you get to know like what's true about me, past like what society has put into me, because a lot of the time you think you really like something, you think like, this is me, this is my identity, and then you start unraveling things and you realize, oh wow, like this was put here from my parents, like this is
Yeah.
put here from one of my friends back in the day, like, so you can really get to know yourself, and what are your values, like what do you really like, and you'll find that, like, oh, I really value this thing, but what I'm doing with my day doesn't match up with that. So
Mhm.
like, how can we find a way to match that up,
Yeah.
um so I recommend journaling to everyone. Like cold exposure has been a big one for me. Just especially like in Colorado, every stream I
Oh,
see,
dude.
I like stop, hop in, calm the breath. Like that.
Yeah.
It's so good for like learning how to control your nervous system and learning how to be comfortable with stress. Essentially, do you do cold exposure?
I do. In the morning, I wake up. First thing I do is I jump in our cold ass pool and I swim some laps. I sit in there for usually like 3 minutes, And then I swim some laps. And then when it gets like the winter time out, we close the pool. I usually do cold showers in the morning. But that's all stuff, man, that I've learned from you. Like legit, like I journal every day. I meditate. I try to meditate every day. That's like the one thing that I struggle with. Like, so actually, going off that, I'm curious, like for meditation for you, what's some of like the profound benefits? Because meditation for me and for a lot of people I talk to about it, it's the one thing that they know they should be doing, but people have a really hard time either sticking to it or they have a really hard time just trying it the first time in general.
Yeah, that was me for years. I knew it was good, but I just couldn't get myself to do it consistently. The benefits for me is just simply just to get quiet and just slow down. Uh, Doing strength side, being really into chasing physical goals. These are all things that like ramp me up and get me super motivated. I'm like, go, 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 go. But yeah, meditation is just like, yo, let's pause.
Yeah.
Maybe life isn't like I don't know what the meaning to life is. Nobody does, but I know that it might not be all the go, 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 right? Like there's a good chance that probably like sitting back, appreciating this moment is also a big part of life
Sure,
too,
yeah.
So like just simply, but then I wanted to mention like using guided meditations really helped me out. Cause in the beginning I was like, yo, I'm gonna go straight Buddhist and I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna like meditate for an hour, like just focus on my breath. And I was just setting myself up for failure. So then I just started like chipping away at, hey, I'm gonna do this 10-minute guided meditation. I found like some online that I really resonated with. You gotta like the voice of the person that you're listening
Oh
to.
yeah.
So you might your first guided meditation, you might be like, oh, that didn't really hit for me. So like find another one that you resonate with more.
Mm. So what does that look like for you in terms of meditation? Because I know meditation, like I know some people, meditation's literally just like sitting there doing absolutely nothing. I know some people focus on their breath. I know some people do 30 minutes, some people do 5 minutes. So like just personally, like what does meditation look like for you in terms of what it is and then how long as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I've went through a lot of different phases. Like I said, like the thing that really got me going was just committing to 10 minutes a day of a guided meditation. From there, I was like able to develop a meditation practice to where I was really comfortable and I wanted to do it. I liked sitting down. I did some of Joe Dispenza's work,
Okay.
which is like 45-minute meditations, sometimes longer, sometimes like 55 minutes. And I committed to doing that for 30 days. And that was like the first 10 days were brutal. I'm like, oh my gosh, how long has it been? But then I hit a point where like I was craving more. I was
Mm.
like, oh, I want to go longer. I want to go longer. Now, currently, I've just been sitting down to meditate in the morning for about 20 to 30 minutes. I've been getting back to like no, just me and the breath,
Yeah.
and I've been experimenting with just like doing bigger exhales, with just breathing in through my nose, and then like a bigger, longer type exhale, and that seems to like really bring my focus here rather than letting my thoughts kind of just race away while I'm sitting there.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, man. So, one of the things I wanted to touch on that I know you mentioned is this kind of like that, like you said, like conformity. Like sometimes you'll be following something that's maybe you think you're doing it because like you want to, but really if you take the time, like let's say it's journaling or you take the time to meditate on it or talk to yourself, you realize that, oh my gosh, like this is somebody else's vision for me. It's not my vision. So I think that's one of the things I really admire about you and a lot of the people on the podcast is like that they're like free thinkers, like they're taking the time to look inward and kind of like appreciate and understand what really they are passionate about, which is it's the whole idea of like the brand, dividing yourself from the norm to be able to find what you love and like be powerful in that. And so for you, when did that realization come? And also like what advice could you give to people who are maybe feeling like they're conforming or maybe they don't know that they're conforming to somebody else's vision for them or somebody else's idea for their life?
Yeah. Um, so what I would offer anyone that is maybe feels like they're a little bit stuck in their identity. Maybe you're listening to this and you're like, wow, yeah, I think a lot of this has been put onto me rather than this is like my true passion. Doing something new, doing something novel, like that can get you just like you're here, and then it will just shift your perspective to right here, and you'll be able to like, oh wow, okay, I can see things a little bit differently. And what I always say to people is like, hey, maybe you've been lifting weights in the gym for your whole life. Like, go do a martial art, like go do BJJ, go do capoeira, whatever it is. Maybe you've been doing yoga your whole life. Like, go lift heavy weights, go take up basketball or soccer or something, do something completely different for your physical practice. And that will start chipping away at like your mindset as well. And you'll start just viewing things differently, and you can start to really open yourself up and see like what you might also be interested in that you never really realized.
Dude, I love that. That's great advice. That's great advice, man. So I know something that I always love. I know we're both huge coffee people. I love watching you make coffee, and I love coffee, man. Like, I resonate with you a lot in that. Just like, there's nothing better to me. Like, when I travel, I love traveling as well. And when I travel, like, my favorite thing about traveling is going to the different coffee shops. So, as far as coffee, but then also like just like morning routines and stuff, because I know coffee is a big part of your morning routine. So like, how important is a morning routine for you, and kind of like, what does that morning routine look like for you?
Yeah, my morning routine is really, really important to me, but at the same time I like to uh release that and be like, hey, if I just want to spend the morning like relaxing on the couch, I can do that too. Because I think sometimes we become too attached to like what you have to do in the morning, and then if you don't do it, you're like, oh well, the rest of my day is screwed.
Yeah, man.
With with that being said, what I do every morning is I wake up, I get some water in me, and then I go straight to meditation. Like, lately it's been so awesome because I can just be out in like beautiful views and stuff and sit down and just really relax. And lately I haven't been using a timer or anything for meditation. It's just like, yo, let me just sit here and feel good. And when it feels like the time is right, I can go about my day. After that, then I usually like to bust out the journal. I use some affirmations that I write down every day just to like get me in a place where I'm really setting not only myself consciously but subconsciously to where I want to be for that day. And then after that, it's like, oh yeah, now we get to make some coffee.
Yeah.
And lately I've been using the Chemex, and that's been fun because I haven't used one of those in a couple of years. So yeah, then I have coffee, and from there it's kind of like get work started or go straight into movement stuff.
Yeah, man. And is the movement practice, is that something you do every day, and how much of it do you do every day, if you do every day? And just what does that look like for you? Because like you said, I think the really cool thing is like, you could literally train and get a good workout and feel good from anywhere, which I think is so important. And I think that a lot of people maybe found that out the hard way during quarantine when the gyms were
Yeah.
closed. And so, yeah, well, so just like, what does your movement, your daily movement look like for you right now?
Yeah, well, I work with a coach, and his name's Will Brown, and he directs me in just chasing this more movement perspective. So for me right now, like, we're always changing it up, but I'll do gymnastics strength training 2 times a week, and that involves like training on the gymnastics rings, handstand stuff, um, and then and the other, so then like another 3 days a week, I'm more working on what people term as movement, like these like locomotion patterns, acrobatic patterns, stuff like that. Getting more into like dance aspects, I guess you could say. And then I have another day where I'm doing a little bit more lower body work and some backflips actually, which is
Damn,
fun.
right.
Yeah. but like besides that, that's kind of like the strict how the schedule looks. Things like the daily practice, I'm trying to like live a more movement rich lifestyle, which is completely opposite of how I was in my early 20s. My
Yeah.
early 20s, it was like train hard for an hour a day and then sit down the rest of the hours.
Right.
And now I'm just like any time while making my coffee, I can I can get in a horse stance. I can open up my chest, right? I can like find just all these different times of the day just to get a little bit of movement in.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that you just reminded me of when you said that is I teach sports performance. I don't right now, but I've taught sports performance in the past, done like personal training. And one thing I tell everybody is I'm like, do a dead hang for at least like a couple times for a minute, sit in a squat for a couple times a minute. Those are things I do every day, and it makes a world of difference. And that's just some of the small stuff, man, like along with the daily practice. So, I encourage people, if you're listening, like check out Josh's stuff, man. Check out Strength Side, because like he said, man, just trying something different, especially right now when there's so much uncertainty, like being able to try something different, I think will benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
This episode of the Powerful One podcast is brought to you by Custom Wellness Solutions. Custom Wellness Solutions has a mission to provide aspiring athletes, fitness professionals, collegiate athletes, professional athletes with necessary education and tools to optimize their nutrition, enhance their performance, and exceed their health and fitness goals. And they're out to make a difference where it counts, on and off the field. Wellness Solutions provides you with protein, some of the best protein you can find. The Your Way protein found in chocolate. They got unflavored, super amazing product. I've been taking it for years. 6 ingredients for the chocolate, only 4 ingredients for the unflavored protein. It's an amazing product, no BS. If you know me, you know that I don't deal with the bull crap that's in a lot of these different synthetic powders and stuff like that. This is all natural, good, high quality protein for your protein and your workout needs, your dietary needs. Custom Wellness Solutions also offers the LFG Beast bands. Guys, if you are not using bands in your workout, you absolutely need to start utilizing bands. If you're working out from home, you can get a great workout using bands. They've got the big bands, they've got the small bands, they've got everything from light to extra heavy. So go check out Custom Wellness Solutions at customwellnesssolutions.com and go check out their protein, go check out the Beast bands, and use promo code TEEP. That is TEEP at checkout. Save yourself some money, 10% off. Check them out.
I will add one thing actually,
Yes,
because
please.
I think this is like, I think this is such, so this is like really important advice for any guy who identifies with like thinking they know everything and like being really stuck in like this hyper masculinity is dance. Like dance will humble the shit out of you, right? Like especially if you're like, dance, yeah, right, I don't dance. Do it. Like that's gonna open yourself up. Like we talked about, like how do you get past like conformity, like how do you get past like what society's put on you, and dance can be a really really helpful one. And you're gonna feel like embarrassed. It's just like a cold plunge. Like you feel those feelings of like, ah! But then if you can if you can relax into it, that's where a lot of the juice is.
Ooh, dude, that's something I'm all about, trying new stuff. Dances, I've always been scared, which is probably a good sign that I should try it. So that's good advice for anybody listening. What dance do you take?
Well, so like my experience with capoeira, that was like it's very rhythmic, so
Right.
that was kind of my intro into like, oh wow, like I have this rhythm in me. I've just been scared to show it. And then I don't know if you've heard of it, ecstatic dance, but it's just essentially like it's like a club during the day. They'll be like in the mornings or whatever, and you just go dance how you feel. And there'll be, I mean, at least every ecstatic dance I've been to, there's people doing crazy stuff, and like you're not being judged because everybody's being weird. So it's a good way to like let yourself go a little
Oh, dude,
bit.
that's awesome, man. That's sweet. No,
Yeah.
I'm glad you added that in. But kind of going off that, man, like, to touch back, what is something that you're looking forward to as far as Strength Side in the future, or just for yourself in the future, man? I know you're going to be doing some traveling and stuff. So what does life look like coming up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing it back.
Yeah.
Well, um, yeah. So you mentioned the podcast series that I did. That was that. I think I started it maybe last year, and it ran through the beginning of this year.
Right.
That was a lot of fun for me. I'm going to bring that back in some form. My vision is that something like this, conversations with like an interactive cameraman, so we can kind of get that like first
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
um, vibe, but yeah, like I think these conversations like we're having right now are so important. They were so important in my development, and like I mentioned, like I'm at a point where I just want to, I really want to give back. I want, like, just like I found Elliot Hulse to be very inspiring back, 7, 8 years ago. Like I want people, and that's why I'm here. I want people to do the same with me and to start their journey and to keep on just like wanting to fill their life with growth. So, yeah, more good conversations.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm excited for that because that was one of the things. That was the thing that you started that I was most excited about was just hearing like these conversations, the conversations that I like having, conversations that you've had on your channel that have helped me to grow and to become a better person. Like, it's the reason I started the podcast. It's the reason that I like having these conversations and being, talking to people like yourself, man. So I'm excited that you're doing that for sure. So yeah, man, I guess, so one more thing that I like to do to kind of close out the podcast, everybody has such a different life experience and they've learned so many different things. So if you could give people listening just, a core piece of life advice that you've learned, what would that be?
It really comes down to it is what you make of it. And I know that life can be a lot deeper, and it can be a source of like real inspiration, and you can wake up every single day inspired and just ready to do like great things, and it truly is just a mindset. It truly is just getting yourself to believe that, um, without being too negative. I think like in our modern society, like it triggers us to be very surface level, but there's a lot below the surface, and it feels really good when you get there. And all the stuff that me and Tommy have talked about today, these are practices that can take you into that depth and can lead to more freedom and a higher quality of life.
Dude, I absolutely love that, man. And I do want to say for people listening, like Josh, like and Strength Side and just you and your platform have had a huge impact on me. And I think that's just such a testament to you, man, and everything you're doing. I'm truly inspired, whether it's literally cold therapy, meditation, being free, like feeling actually good and not sore when I wake up in the morning, journaling. Like there's so many things that I've learned from you and that you've helped to inspire me through. And so, I encourage the people listening to just maybe try to surround yourself with more people like that. Check out Josh and everything he has going on with Strength Side. And then also, man, like where can people find you to check out all your content?
Well, thank you, Tommy. This has been great, dude, and I'm super inspired by this conversation. I'm like, whoo, let's go do some
Oh,
do
that's
some
awesome.
big things, right? So I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you having me here. A simple search of Strength Side in YouTube will take you to the bulk of our content, and I suggest just watching some videos, seeing if you vibe with it. If it resonates with you, you can dive deeper and deeper. We have a lot of offerings.
Dude, that's perfect, man. And then what's your Instagram plug?
Yeah, it's at the Strength Side.
Perfect, man. So yeah, guys, check Josh out, dude. I can't thank you enough for making the time, man. You truly inspire me, and I'm really excited for this episode and everybody for listening. So thank you again, man.
Dope. Thanks a lot, Tommy.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching the podcast. Be sure to go like it, subscribe, share, all that stuff that you're supposed to say at the end of the podcast. Thank you guys again, and stay tuned every Thursday, powerful1.com/podcast or on the Instagram page at Powerful0NE Powerful1. Thank you guys again. And again, last thing, if you guys are interested in being on the podcast, hit me up. If you got a cool story and feel like you really fit the mold for Powerful One, hit me up. We'll get you on the podcast. Thank you guys.